Watercolor paper is pretty tough stuff, but it's a lot tougher dry than wet. So the first thing you want to do before water touches paper is to put in any guidelines you might need. The best thing to draw them in is just a plain old number 2 pencil. The best thing to erase them with is this plain white block eraser. Anything else seems too aggressive and damages the paper. You want to get your guidelines in fairly dark, particularly any that are critical. In this case, a horizon is critical. You want it to be horizontal and straight. So I put that in kind of heavy because you don't want it washed out. We need to wet this paper through and through. The way we do that is starting on the back. We turn it over and we position it. Generally, for wetting paper, we can use some pretty heavy-duty tools. I can either spray it or I can use my house painter brush to really wet it. The object of all of this is to be able to paint wet and wet. And what that means is that you're going to take wet paint and paint it into a thoroughly wet piece of paper. The effects that you get are spectacular. You will notice that this paper is drying pretty quickly. What's happening is that the water under the surface is absorbing the water on the surface. Paper is very thick. It's going to take quite a while to get this wet. Once it's thoroughly wetted, we want to turn it over. Because wet paper is fairly delicate, you don't want to handle it. From now on, we want to avoid touching the paper, and that's why I have placed it on this plastic backing board. The board overlaps the paper all around, and now we just wet the front down the same way. But this time, we're going to have to let it sit. We're going to have to wet it a few times. It's going to take about 5 minutes. And here's 2 more goes every few minutes at high speed. And finally, when it won't absorb any more water, when there's like a lake on the surface there, we're almost ready to paint. What we want to do is now take the lake off the surface, and I'm using here a roll of paper towel. You can just blot it too. Any way that gets the surface water off but leaves everything else soaking wet. Now you're ready to paint.